What's going on, everyone? In this video, we're going to learn one of the most important tools in cybersecurity, Nmap, short for Network Mapper. It's a free-to-use network discovery and security auditing tool that lets us discover what hosts are online, what ports are open on those hosts, and what services they might be running. It's a tool every penetration tester and defender should understand. I'll be demonstrating everything right here in the terminal so you can follow along step by step. We'll start with basic host discovery and then move on to scanning ports, detecting services, and identifying those operating systems that the host could potentially be running. And hopefully by the end of this walkthrough, you'll know not just the commands to run, but why each one of them matters. Let's get right into it. So for the first type of scan we're going to run is host discovery. And what that's going to let us do is figure out what is available or alive on the network. In my lab, I know the network is 192.168.229.0/24, which means there's 254 possible hosts from 1 to 254. So scanning that range helps me map out all the devices inside. So we can run the command sudo nmap-sn 192.168.229.1-254, right? So you want to get in the habit of running the sudo command for Nmap because it's basically going to unlock all of the more advanced features and enumeration that will make this tool incredibly more accurate when scanning across the network, right? And then the -sn switch is going to disable port scanning and just basically allow only ICMP requests, which is basically going to just ping the host and see who responds to those pings across this network 192.168.229.1-254. So let's go ahead and run that command. Right, and so that we can go all the way down here and it says that we have 7 hosts up. For the purposes of this video, the only IPs that we're really focused on here are going to be these 3 right here, 140, 141, 142. Those are the hosts that we can potentially attack. And then this is my attack box's IP. And then all the other IPs, if you're curious, is just the IPs that were assigned to certain VMware infrastructure. So we found out that there's 7 hosts up and we want to focus on these 3 and do more in-depth scanning now. So now that we have figured out what hosts are alive, we're going to transition over into port scanning. All right, so before we get started into our port scanning, I recommend that we throw the IPs that we have discovered into a file so that it's easier to scan all of the IPs at once rather than individually scanning each IP. So whatever file editor of your choice, use that. I'm going to name this file targets.txt. Right, so we're going to throw in the 3 IP addresses that we are interested in. Then go ahead and click save. Go ahead and clear our terminal screen. And then to run a port scan for these specified IPs, we are going to use sudo nmap-st because we are going to run a TCP scan because it's more reliable and we're not concerned about being stealthy, right? st-il, I capital L, or we can think of IL as input list. We want to take the list of IPs that we made and use it with Nmap. So nmap, sudo nmap-st-il targets.txt, and that will take the 3 IPs that we are interested in and scan them for open ports. By default, Nmap will scan the top 1,000 most commonly used ports. All right, so we can see that we have a couple ports open on all 3 hosts. And for future reference, when you're doing anything related to Active Directory, Windows related machines, and you see ports like 53, 88, and 389 open, there's a high chance that that particular host is a domain controller. And if you can compromise that particular machine, then you can pretty much control the entirety of a network. Right? So the other two are just seems to be regular Windows machines. And we see that 135, 139, 445, and 3389 are open on both. The most interesting ones are going to be 445 and 3389. 445 is the port that SMB, server message block protocol, runs its traffic through, and 3389 is it's going to allow us to establish a GUI interface that can allow us to interact more easily with those machines and conduct a lot more in-depth attacks. All right, so finding those open ports was great, but it doesn't really tell us the full story. What we really care about is going to be what's actually running behind those ports. And for that, we're going to add the -sv flag to our Nmap scan. So sudo nmap-sv, and then we are going to continue to use our targets.txt file. And then we get our results. All right, so from the scan, SMB on port 445 and RDP, right, on these two machines are the two biggest red flags. Traditionally, they've had major exploits in the past and are still honestly common attack vectors that most attackers will use today. And then on our domain controller, LDAP and the Kerberos aren't directly exploitable in one shot, but they are gold mines when it comes to post-compromise enumeration and attacks once we have a valid set of credentials. All right, so moving into our fourth Nmap scan, we're going to do the operating system version enumeration, right? So you already kind of guessed, and I've told you that these machines are Windows based, but in real world engagements, assumptions can burn you. So making sure you gather as much information on the network about the network as possible is key. So running the -o argument is going to give us the operating system fingerprint. Maybe it's Windows 10, Server 2019, or even something pretending to be Windows. So this extra information is just going to help us go about picking the right attack paths and confirming what we're dealing with. So we are going to go ahead and run sudo nmap-O IL, and then we can go ahead and tab out to finish that and conduct our scan. We get our results back, and for all three hosts, and close to the bottom of each scan for the host, you can see the aggressive operating system guess is Microsoft Windows Server 2022 with a 97% chance that it actually is. And the same thing goes for the bottom two, right? I told you guys that it was Windows 10 earlier, and this particular scan has verified that. For our fifth scan type, Nmap also has a scripting engine referred to as NSE, or Nmap Scripting Engine. These scripts can do all kinds of advanced checks, from brute force attempts to vulnerability detection. And for example, I'm going to run that vulnerability script. So we can do sudo nmap --script vuln. Go ahead and tab out for the target that we've been using. All right, and we get our results back. And if you look down at the bottom of the results for every host, you're going to get either failed or false, which means that the scripting engine that Nmap has didn't detect any known vulnerabilities. That doesn't mean that the system isn't necessarily vulnerable to a particular attack. It just doesn't have anything in the Nmap library that was detected when it ran the scan. Yeah, in practice, attackers typically are going to go after weak passwords on services like RDP and SMB, or abuse newer vulnerabilities that aren't yet covered in these scripts. Yeah, so we can think of this as a first pass, but not a guarantee of safety on these systems. All right, if you made it this far, I appreciate you joining me on this miniature journey. So let's go ahead and finish out with my favorite all-in-one scan that I used most often in any of the labs that I do, CTFs, and that's going to be sudo, right? Sudo nmap -t4 -p-a -il targets.txt-on nmapscan.txt. Go ahead and hit enter. And so basically what this scan does is it runs nmap with the -t, making the scan a little bit quicker but still reliable. -p- is going to make sure it includes all 65,535 ports and not just the top 1,000 most common. The -a switch is going to stand for aggressive, which it combines operating system detection, version detection, and default Nmap scripts and tracer route all in one go. And then of course we know what IL does. And then so the -on is just going to throw all of our scan results into a file, making our organization a little bit neater instead of just having it all over the terminal. And then that means we can still use the terminal and refer back to those results as needed throughout our engagement, whether that be a CTF or a professional pen test. All right, so we got our scan results back for all three of our targets. We're going to go ahead and clear this for proof of concept. Hit LS, and we see that our output file that we named in our all-in-one scan, nmap scan.txt, is there. So go ahead and cat it out. And again, this particular scan combines pretty much all we learned in all of the other previous scans and throws it into a file for us to look at throughout our CTF or our engagement, but whatnot. Shows our operating systems, extra ports that we didn't even discuss earlier, but that is a discussion for another video. So yeah, that wraps up our look at Nmap, starting from simple host discovery, moving through our port scanning and service enumeration, operating system detection, the particular scripts that you can run with an Nmap Scripting Engine, and finally that all-in-one scan that is super useful to get the job done. The big takeaway I think for this is Nmap isn't really about just finding open ports. It's about building a profile of a system or the hosts that you discover. And with that information, it's the foundation for vulnerability research and penetration testing. In other words, this is where recon turns into actionable intelligence. If you found this helpful and you want to keep building your cybersecurity skills with me, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and consider dropping a comment below and maybe let me know what your favorite Nmap command or flags are to use, and what kind of tools you guys would like to see in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.